it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Really helps the channel out tremendously. But Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Well, it's a good night, guys. You know, we're going to get together. We're going to talk gaming and all that good stuff. And we have none other than Druid City Games, which is an award-winning game company that works with some of today's best board game designers, artists, developers in the industry. They're known for their high production quality and the excellent value they provide to the gaming community. There are only a few days left to their latest Kickstarter project, which is titled Tidal Blades 2 Rise of the Unfolders, which is a massive campaign-based dungeon crawl board game. Also, an RPG being powered by none other than the Cypher System, another reason why we're here, written by Shauna Germain of Monty Cook Games. And the RPG system or game itself is going to be based in the rich, immersive world of Navari. So let's welcome Lina and David, also known as Mr. Cuddington, to the CU. Welcome, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for having us.
Hey guys, welcome to the CU. And you know, before we even start talking about Tidal Blades, I know we asked you this off air, but what's the deal with Mr. Cuddington? Tell us a little bit about yourselves and you know, what's your role in this project?
Yeah, sure. Want to introduce us?
Together we go under the name Mr. Cuddington, and we are board game artists. We specialize in doing art for board games. We've done a couple that are known, like Santorini, the new edition of Brass, the first Tidal Blade, Grim Forest, and Charterstone by Stone Mayer Games. And it was our first time illustrating an RPG book. And I gotta say, it was like the highlight of
it was our most fun project. Yeah, this year.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, because I mean, usually on books like this, they have, I don't know, 10, 15 illustrators, and we just did everything. So we spent months like drawing on that book and just writing with Shauna Germain, and she's such a nice person. Developing this book with her was amazing.
I mean, for us, it was almost like a pandemic project. It lasted almost it spanned over more than a year. And we worked on that during 2020 and 2021. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to say that now all the illustrations are done, and it's an amazing feeling to have something that's just almost ready.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a 400-page core book. It's huge. It's probably the biggest thing we did.
But we're kind of getting ahead.
What was the question?
Who are we?
That's all right. I could totally see your excitement and relief, because what, like we told you off air, that the artwork in this book is phenomenal. The artwork in both games are phenomenal. You know, so you know, you have all the reason to be super excited to you know, have our audience actually see this product, because it's freaking awesome.
Thanks.
And yeah, you guys' passion just oozes, and it's infectious, and it's really, you know, I think all three of us have said it to you already, but the artwork, yeah, you know, hands down, primo, you know, just some of the best we've seen, and it's very inspiring. So
thanks. I hope there's some crossover of people that, I mean, are mostly into RPGs, but then come on the page, like the book, and see the board game and see something they like. And
vice versa. I've seen the other thing too, where board gamers are just like drawn in with like the world, and they want to explore the RPG side and just try something new. Because I think those are kind of two different markets, but there is some overlap, and I just...
Yeah, and when we imagine this world, I mean, we almost could see this open world video games in our mind, and that's how we built all the lore. So it's just one step closer. Having people being able to play it as an RPG it's just awesome.
Well, yeah, it's definitely super exciting. And like we said, or excuse me, like I specifically said off camera, the art is just, it's so evocative. The colors are phenomenal. I'm just so excited to see the book in all its glory. Like once it's in our hands, like I'm so excited. And sorry,
if you want to see some art, you can go on our art station, and we posted a bunch of like pretty big pieces of art that you can see in the book. And so check this out.
I definitely will.
We'll definitely take a look. I mean, I just wanted to say, like, with this whole situation that we're talking about, that is one of the best parts about it because, as you guys have, given the description that it's a massive campaign-based dungeon crawl board game, that in itself gives us the crossover ability because, and then the idea that I can now write stories in this great world. I can write a story and I can, take people on adventures. It's not just limited to those ideologies. That's the thing about the RPG that makes it so compelling. On top of the fact, like Al said, the evocative artwork is going to make it that much easier, for a game master to sit down and describe the world because you've given us so much to work with already. So it's awesome,
We would first of all, I wanted to say a shout out to James. James was supposed to be here as well. Sorry, James, we miss you. We hope we can get you on at one time too. Before we get into the actual RPG, let's talk about the tabletop game itself. Sure. Al, you want to lead into this?
Yeah, so Tidal Blades 2, very super successful. It's already raised over 780,000, 78. Yeah, I'm bad at reading zeros here, yeah, but a lot of money, and has over 6,000 backers with only 46 more hours to go. Can you tell us a little bit more about the board game and how is it different from the original Tidal Blades?
Well, it's very different from the first one because the first one you were attempting a tournament and it was more like
it was a worker placement game. Yeah. So you go to the location, you take an action, do a bunch of stuff, then it's the other player's turn, and you're also competing against the other players.
And it was like an awesome game, but we had a lot of lore written up that didn't necessarily get used in it because worker placement is not as a narrative as Dungeon Crawler, which is the second game. It's a dungeon crawler, and it's a very narrative dungeon crawler where you get to read pages of like story before you start each scenario. And do you want to explain the grid a little bit?
Well, I just want to say, because some people might just have no idea what the first game was. It's the cool thing is when you play in the first game, you have these 5 characters that are attempting to be Tidal Blades. So they are participating in this tournament. There are arenas. You're like fighting big mud crabs that we talk about. And there's like a desert arena, an arena when you're competing watercrafts and do races and whatnot. And then by the end of the first game, you're sort of elected the new generation of Tidal Blades. And so the second game, even though it's completely different from a game design standpoint, you still narratively continue the same story. You're the same characters, but now they are Tidal Blades, these heroes of the reefs, and they work together to try to save Naviri. And there's sort of this big epic adventure. But it's just, it's fun. Just the idea of like having known these characters previously from the first game and being attached to them and just now being able to play as them in the dungeon crawl adventure.
It must be cool from a design perspective, how, having to connect the two games, like the way you described it, that must have been very interesting when your guys were going over the creative process at the beginning of trying to figure out, the second version.
Yeah, well, it was always the plan to have 2 parts. That's why the first game was written like part 1 at the bottom, and we were really crossing our fingers and like hoping that we would make the second game work and it would like work out great. And like I felt that it was nice to get attached to all those Tidal Blades, but just being able to really tell a story with them and just go with them in the fold is going to be like so much fun too. And personally, I really like the diversity of having 2 games in the same universe but very different mechanics.
And I mean, big props to Tim and Ben Eisner. We did the design on both games. So this is another cool thing. It's the same designers that did both games, but they did a completely different design. Yet they sort of managed to pick little things here and there, like some icons, some things like the traits for the character. Like instead of having, I don't know, strength and dexterity in this universe, it's always like spirit, focus, resilience, and synergy. And like these concepts come back. So if you've played the first one, everything feels familiar design-wise, even though everything is completely different.
Yeah, and they've been really great also with giving a voice to the characters. Tim and Ben have helped us like writing the narrative on the first campaign, and I don't know, I feel like they know so much about this universe, and working with the same team across both board games is really like a big plus for us. Like they know everything about the world, so for them it's, I think, easier to build some design concepts around it. And
I'm excited for the game to come out, because I think it's even more accessible than part one, weirdly, because it's like the part two, but it's a dungeon crawl adventure, so it's easy to come into the game. It's like, okay, you move on a map, you attack monsters and whatnot, but there's this Nexus grid that's really cool where you play cards, and every time you play a card, you're gonna activate like the full row of there. It's like a grid of 9 squares basically, and you place cards on it. And when you play a card, you activate either a row or a column. And so the more you play, the more your grid fills up with cards, and the cards stay from turn to turn. So your turns get increasingly better, and then you're trying to build up these bigger turns. And so there's a lot of depth into it, but it's also super simple and accessible for players. So I can't wait for like new players to even start off with Tidal Blades 2, and then maybe think, oh, wow, it sounds cool to just see their backstory and then come play part 1 afterwards.
I mean, okay, dude.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that they kind of answered the question I was gonna go into. But go ahead.
I'll elaborate it to them. You had said the campaign-based dungeon crawl is how it's described, right? And as someone that isn't, a board game aficionado, and I don't totally understand the genre, can you dig a little deeper into what exactly style of board game that is?
You mean a dungeon crawl? Yeah.
Yeah, a campaign-based dungeon crawl in a board game form.
Yeah, okay. So picture like there's map books on the table, okay? And with like X grids on it. So there's little spaces you can move onto. And each character is represented by a miniature or a standee on it. So you can move from one X to another. And there's monsters too on it. So you can, if you go adjacent to it, you play cards that say attack for each number of damage. You throw dice, you do damage onto that monster. Eventually it's killed off, or maybe other new monsters spawn. And then there are some hidden things on the map. So maybe at first you see just you're on a floating platform and there's a house, but the door is closed. And then you kill off the first tentacles coming out of the water, and you flip the page, and then you see inside the house and there's citizens to be saved. And then you come in and then you try to save the citizens where other monsters are coming in. So it's kind of the gist of it. And each scenario is totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the game. It's so much fun.
And each scenario like starts with a little story and asks you to do specific thing. Like you have objective for each scenario that will say, you don't always just go in and just kill all the monsters. Sometimes you will need to save citizens, or you will need to solve a puzzle or do something else. And I think that's also something that's really nice, that just not just going into each room and just kill everything and switch to the next.
Yeah.
We've been trying to go for very different like mechanics too, from scenarios to scenarios. So you'll have scenarios where you're on very high cliffs and you need to jump in between, and you cannot just land in the middle of like those peaks. So you just have those mechanics that integrate themselves little by little, so that it's not overwhelming with the rules, because sometimes that's what's hard with learning a new board game, is just that the rules are so big, and it's just, you feel like you're reading like a novel. And this one is just, it's simple. You have a first mission that's really streamlined, and then you add new mechanics as the game goes by. So
and you unlock new cards too. So your cards get more and more powerful. And then you can, so it's like your deck of cards, you can really personalize it and also trim the cards you don't like anymore. So it gets more powerful. You remove the weakest cards, and you have this like character sheet. You can just check things off, and it's like you have these different paths and you unlock skills. And I mean,
yeah, that sounds so much fun.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Dean, you want to throw in a question before I go into mine?
No, actually, I'm just enjoying. Go ahead.
Yeah, this,
So before I ask my next question about the art, it's cooperative, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work together as a team of Tidal Blades, and you have objectives that are common to everybody. People can get knocked out, but they'll come back. And
I think people can save you and
yeah.
get you come back. Yeah.
So like it's always encouraged for people to help each other out. There's no competitiveness between
Yeah,
the
you win or you
characters.
fail as a team, but you also have these personal objectives that let you check the things on your character sheet. So sometimes, even though you're working as a team, you might be like, yeah, well, my goal is to like move 8 sometime during the game, and I'd like to pick up this fruit at the end to buy an equipment for myself. So sorry, guys, I'm just gonna like go this way and deal with the big crowd there.
Oh, that's awesome. You still get to screw your friends over.
Yeah.
You're cooperative, but
I
No,
mean, that
there
sort
is-
of thing. Okay.
No, I was just saying, the one thing I just thought about. I noticed like throughout the Kickstarter, you guys keep unlocking scenarios and so on and so forth. Are those scenarios a part of the RPG, or can they be, I mean, of course they can be ported over because anything can be ported over, but are they going to be available, or are they only part of the board game?
They'll come packaged with anyone who pledges for the board game. So like if you only pledge for the book, you won't receive exclusive scenario. The thing you receive exclusively for the RPG book is the XP deck, I think, right?
Yeah, that's right. You can, if you just want like the map books by themselves. Let's say you're not interested in the game, even though you probably should. But let's say you're not, and you just want the maps. You can buy them as an add-on. So you've got all these nice locations you can explore. But then, probably if you do that, you're gonna want all the box of like 70 miniatures, and like once you're there, well, maybe you just want the game too. So. So we offer all these different add-ons to suit to everyone's taste, but you want the all-in.
Will the scenarios be there as an add-on as well?
No,
you
cannot buy just the exclusive scenario separately.
Yeah, it's the little incentive for like getting people to back the game now instead of waiting. Yeah,
Makes sense.
the art on this game is absolutely, I know we've mentioned it multiple times, absolutely gorgeous. Where did you guys get your inspiration from? And how did you come up with such unique species that inhabit this world? Because I personally want to be a turtle person.
Yeah, I want to know your favorite species first. Did you have time to look it up?
Before you answer?
Yeah.
I would say mine is the croc. I forget what the actual title of it, but the crocodile and the dolphin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're cool.
I mean, I've been saying since day one, since I saw the first image, I said, you had me at turtle person. Like, I want to be a half man, half turtle. So that was me all day long. The species are phenomenal.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we can't help it, it's just that, But what race is Axel?
It's a Nagi.
Yeah, he's actually a half Nagi because his dad was a human and his mom is a Nagi. It's the only two species that can have like babies together. Because the Nagi evolved from humans a long time ago, so they're like pretty close on the evolutionary path.
I dig the Nagi.
Yeah, they have this.
But I
cool
also dig the turtle people.
Yeah.
So like the inspiration, well, this is one of the first time where we had a client, which was James, who was just like, I want to work with you guys again. And what do you guys want to do? Like basically just gave us the freedom to invent anything that comes out of our mind. And it just ended up being Tidal Blades. I'm guessing it's because we're Canadian and we see too much snow. So we kind of need tropical settings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
also, I mean, we were just like, okay, if we're going to spend years, if it works well on an IP, we'll just make it as colorful as it can be, like a place we want to live in. So we just made our own little paradise, basically.
Nice.
Where do you guys get your inspiration for your art style? You know, when I first saw it, it kind of reminded me of like Baudet and American 80s graffiti, if that makes any sense. You know, like graffiti art style. Maybe it's the vibrant colors, but it kind of, you know, Von Baudet, that early, you know, which inspired the whole like graffiti movement. But what are some of your inspirations from artwork?
It's a mix of both of our inspirations. Like, what did you?
Well, I think it's like one of the first ideas ever we had when thinking about Tidal Blades was doing a dungeon crawler that would be, instead of being gloomy and dark, it would be on a beach and it would be super colorful. Because personally, when I looked at all the monsters and Zeldas and stuff like that, I was just like, wow, those are monsters, but they are super colorful and they make me, I don't know, they make me giddy inside. I just want to keep playing that and just keep looking at this art. So there's something for me that was really important, that just bringing all those colors in and just having the very lively theme. But we also felt like it was, I think maybe that was more of your doing, but you kind of bring in like the technology side of it.
I think a big inspiration for me was like Dragon Ball, I guess. Like just the technological aspect, the way the architecture is done. Like I really love all the vehicles, how he draws that in the manga. And so there's a bit of that, and also like the arenas, people fighting against each other. But also, as you said, Legend of Zelda, a lot of JRPGs. Lately, we played Ori and the Blind Forest video game. I don't know if you played it, but it's so gorgeous. And we were playing it as we were like drawing Tidal Blades. And there's a couple scenes where you're underwater, and it like we took a lot of screenshots. Inspiration for Tidal Blades,
And I remember a couple of level of Rayman. Which one?
Yeah, Rayman Legends, and like the remake. Yeah, that real was.
Those were really nice. I think what they did very nicely was picking two very different things and just mixing them together nicely. Like maybe something like, I don't know, the sea and musical instrument or stuff like that, and just mush them together.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we also did, of taking the playa element of tropical setting and just taking a time altering technology and just kind of squishing them together in a way that felt fresh, at least to me.
Yeah, I've always loved time travel. Like they've always been my favorite kind of like short stories. And so when we thought of mixing this, as you said, like ocean world with time travel, I was like, yeah, sure. And so we did all the lore of the city around that. And so yeah, it's really a mix of all of our favorite things.
Have you guys ever thought about, turning this into like an animated movie or a TV show? Because it really looks like this, really, to me, that's what it inspires me. I see, like kind of what Anthony was saying, but I see it from the 80s and 90s, how they used to draw like the Thundercats and, the Tiger Sharks and all of those characters like that. It's got that feel to me, and it makes me feel like that era. I don't know. You guys ever thought about trying to do some animation?
Well, the funny thing is, like, we're kind of illustrator by accident because we both graduated from animation school. So maybe that's a part of like our background, and maybe that gives a bit of the look. We're 90s kids, and we worked into animation before doing any illustration work. And obviously it's one of the things that we always think about, because it would suit it very well, I think, to have an animated series of Tidal Blades.
Yeah.
And David does a lot of 3D too. So, and do you want to talk about it a little bit?
I mean, you guys talk about doing a series all the time. We wish it can happen.
Why don't you just pitch it to Netflix? I'm telling you, they'll buy it.
It's hard. I'm trying to. I mean, I have another project I'm trying to pitch around. It's something we're trying to do. It's very hard because everybody wants to pitch to Netflix, but we want to do that. And I mean, the more people back this project and like it, and the more fans get into that boat, the more chances it has of happening. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna do everything we can to make that happen. And have you watched the show Arcane?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yes.
Okay, so it's amazing. And I mean, when we saw that, we're like, we want to see like Tidal Blades and that with that quality. And Have you watched the opening video of the Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was super inspired by Arcane. Like when we saw Arcane, we were like, we need to do something high quality. I mean, we're just like two people, so it's not gonna be as good, but we're gonna do our best. And I'm doing tutorials right now on my own YouTube channel on how to do an Arcane style using the Tidal Blades thing. And
Nice.
we'd love for that to happen.
Oh,
Well,
I will
Chad is
say.
saying
Oh,
they will back a Kickstarter of an animated show if you guys ever decided to do it.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Just let us know, and we will have you on, and we'll push it and promote it. Please.
but two things before we jump into the next question. One, people would absolutely go crazy for animations. So something was recently posted in one of our chats on Discord. It was some Numenera inspiration, and people go crazy over animation. Like people just love it. So if you made Tidal Blades animated series or something, people will go wild. I'm positive, especially with this art style. Oh my gosh! And secondly, just to go back a little bit, you almost never hear people talk about the technology from Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z or whatever. They always talk about the fighting or the energy or whatever have you. So it's cool that you mentioned that because the tech in DB or DBZ or whatever, it's all super cool and no one really talks about it.
The capsule corps. I mean, the capsules themselves are so cool, and it's as you said, it's always about the fights and the bosses. But to me, that was one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, definitely not talked about enough. But either way, moving along, the world of Naviri is such a rich setting with so much original lore already. Can you tell us a little bit about your creative process when building it out, and what was the original concept built for?
I mean, when building it out, you mean for pitching to our clients the idea of Tidal Blades?
Yeah.
Or did you, okay. We made a mood board to show James first, with random images from the internet.
Yeah, because it's hard to do like very good artwork. It takes time, and we were like, we don't want to spend weeks on something if he doesn't like the concept. So we're just gonna take other people's art, just do a montage, just show them the color palettes, just make sure, like, is it something you want to try? And
like showing a piece of a little bit manga-ish art, showing something that's very colorful, a frog warrior. Everything was a bit of a mixed bag, and it didn't like feel anything cohesive. It was mostly like just a collage.
If you squint your eyes, it was Tidal Blades, but like when you look, you're like, this doesn't work together.
But yeah, that just gave like a vibe, and then we started making concepts. And I think we are very visual people, so I think it was easier for us to just start doing some concepts before we started doing some lore writing. And as we progressed through that method, we became like there has come at some point where the project was kind of bigger than something we could hold into our brains. So we just felt like we needed to just start categorizing everything. So we took a little program called OneNote, and we started making like an internal wiki of everything, which was really cool and like a rabbit hole of starting to just
it was almost a genesis of the RPG book. I mean, we didn't know it would get useful at some point. We were just like, this is too much for our own heads. We need to put this somewhere because there's too many connections everywhere. And so once we all that, and James said, oh, hey, the Monty Cook people, they want to do an RPG book. And so we went there and we met with them, and we had like our iPad and we showed them our wiki, and was like, it's all there. It's all the lore is there. We can show you everything. And it was super useful because when Shauna was writing it, sometimes she had questions and would write to us, but other times she could just like search in our wiki for the answer. And so that helped the process.
Do you remember what the first species or the first image that was like, okay, I have a world here? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, it was the main characters. I think that we drew.
One of the very first concepts, I don't know if you remember, but was like, it was a frog person from the back on a dock with a watercraft. And the image was not in style exactly.
It was like, a bit too kiddish, I think.
Yeah, it felt too much like a kid's game. So we kind of changed it afterwards. But I think it was the first time we had floating houses, non-human species, and watercrafts.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think what makes like this world interesting is the fact that they are humans as well. Like not just there's tons of fish folk and crux and turtles, but there's also humans, and that gives like the scaling of the characters something really interesting. Like having this huge croc that's 2 heads taller than a human makes it so much cooler. But yeah, I think we probably did the concept of Dust because that was the easiest. She was human. I think we nailed Cayman, the big croc, pretty quick because we wanted a really tall and bulky
the one
character.
that was the longest to have, it was Axel.
Yeah, the Nagi was, at first he looked like a little goblin monster. It was not attractive. Like we had no idea. We're like, okay, it's a made up species in our world. What does that look like?
And also we wanted him to be like very young at the beginning. So he was like basically a kid. But then when we fleshed out the story and we wanted the fold is basically like a time stasis area in the world where, you know, just time doesn't happen there. And his mom was stuck in there for like 15 years and she's still in there.
She was a Tidal Blade before him, like a long time ago, and she sort of saved the city by deploying this huge barrier that's a time status, as she said, called the Fold. And so, yeah,
he didn't have like a choice to be at least 15 years old because the Fold was 15 years old and her mom wasn't there. So he kind of grew up with the project because we had to. And I think it was a better choice too, because like having a kid warrior, it felt very funny, but at the same time it's not a One Piece show. Like it's not very cartoony, or not as much as I thought it would be when we first started. Like one of the first frog or fish people that I did were very cartoons with big like funny lips and just like popping out eyes and stuff. Yeah. And that's one thing that I really wanted to have fun with was the fish folk. Like I wanted to have very weird designs and just be able to do everything. So that's one of the reasons we have mutants too.
So James basically allowed you guys to do what however the images were. He gave you pretty much carte blanche to just go crazy with the artwork, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often in a career, so we sort of jumped on the opportunity when he told us that.
Yeah, normally when we have like a client contacting us, it's mostly like, I have that type of game with that thematic, I need this many cards of those specific heroes or whatever. And it's this
and
one
even sometimes what happens is they're doing a theme for their game and they find your work because it's exactly that theme, and so they can relate. They're like, oh, this looks like what I want. So basically they want the same thing you already did. And I mean, it's cool, but at the same time we like to explore different themes, different stuff. So it was really good opportunity for us.
I think that one thing that's recurrent about our career is that we love switching styles. So we did like Brass, that was like industrial revolution, very gritty and very
realistic.
And we did Santorini, which was like super cartoony and very kiddish.
Greek gods.
And like Tidal Blades is a happy middle where like it's not super realistic, but it's more realistic. It's like a middle ground of all those things that we love.
It can be funny. It can also be mature if we need it to. It's just, it feels fun to me. Like I think that's the best word to describe it, but also it can be all those things. It can be dramatic.
Well, that's, since you're talking about it, and that's one of the coolest parts about it, not only does the Kickstarter offer, the massive board game with a ton of replayability, it's a full RPG setting, but you guys are offering these upgrades, dice, minis, exclusive scenarios, just to name a few things. Can you guys talk to us a little bit about those upgrades? And do you guys have a personal favorite that you'd recommend backers to purchase if they can?
Oh my God. I don't think we've ever done a Kickstarter with so many add-ons. If you want something, it's probably there. But
well, personally, I love the portfolios. I just feel like it sounds
Party
like
RPG, you mean?
Yeah, I think it's just sounds like so much fun to just flesh out your characters a little more and just have like sketches of maybe maps you want to do or places you want to go, and just have more detail about the way your character acts and stuff like that, because it's something that Monte Cook Games already have done for, I think, other campaigns, where it's like a 24-page booklet, and you already have some space to fill out everything that's related to the Cypher system, but you also have space to just take some notes and do everything.
Yeah. No, I was just saying the character folios, Monte Cook's character folios are awesome. So
yeah, this sounds like a nice companion. GM screen is gonna be super pretty. We're still figuring out all the info that we're gonna put on the other side, because the side facing the GM, we want to put a lot of info in there, like interesting NPCs that you might just want to have like at a glance people that you can meet in the universe and stuff like that, and lots of info. So I think it's gonna be like a nice tool for people who wants to get it.
Yeah. My personal favorite is the custom dice. I don't know. Every time I saw them, they look so shiny and translucent. I mean, I just want them in my hands, but I don't need them, but I want them. Maybe it's because I did the render and like did all the painting to make them extra look good, but
I mean, how cool is it to see your animations sculpted in minis?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first game had only how many minis?
Only
5 or
heroes?
6. Yeah, they were like
the
5.
heroes and the judge, right?
Yeah.
So
but this one, there's so many miniatures.
All the monsters are in miniatures. It's so cool.
It's another case of it's not we're working
70.
with the same sculptor who does all the miniatures, Herberto Vale. And it's another case of I cannot think of many campaigns where they use one sculptor for that many sculpts. And he's been working on it for a long time. He really nailed that style of he has a specific way of sculpting things that everything's a bit chunky and it makes it very nice to paint too, I feel. Because sometimes you look at a miniature and when you see it up close on your screen, you're like, so many details, this is so cool. But then you try to paint and you're like, everything's so tiny. But he just manages to make the details.
Yeah, he finds the happy middle.
Yeah.
Like having just enough detail, but being like a simplification of just.
I mean, what struck me about the minis when I was looking at them on the the Kickstarter pages, they so closely resemble your art style. It looks, it's if whoever the sculptor is, I don't know the person's name, so I apologize, but they actually match the artwork in the game and the RPG book so well. It's it's awesome to see.
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody who doesn't realize it, take a look at that. The value for the price is unreal. That's 70 miniatures, and it's basically $1 a mini, when you think about it. And then with the other stuff that's being unlocked as it's unlocked, if you get that too, I mean, it's just crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a lot of fun for people who paint minis too. Like there's a lot of painting to be done.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I'm really happy that they I managed to add the miniature wash add-on. So like if you don't paint minis and want something a bit more a dash of color on your table, you can have these custom colors. Well, there's 3 different colors. Heroes are specific colors, monsters are blue, and then the big bosses are this like very cool purple. So it makes just all the details pop and maybe look a bit less gray on the table.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shauna Germain of Monte Cook Games, help and Bear, who's in the audience right now, did the layout for the RPG setting book, right, for this project. How did you guys hook up with MCG, and how is it allowing a different company to work on the lore of the Tidal Blades setting?
I mean,
interesting question. Yeah.
It's been so nice. Like we've got to meet Shauna.
Yeah, we went in Seattle. When was it?
Just before COVID hit. Yeah. Right? Just before Christmas.
Autumn. Yeah.
And we had supper with them and we talked it over, and it was so much fun. Like Bear is such a sweet guy and Shauna is so much fun to work with. She has some amazing ideas, and I just like that she asks a lot of questions that are just so pertinent. She comes to us and she says, you have a lot of monsters, but do you have like regular animals in that world.
Smaller creatures.
You do have like petable creatures or something like that. And you know, like working on the first game, everything is about battling and monsters and everything. So I kind of hadn't realized that we didn't have middle-sized creatures or small creatures. So we worked on that. And like,
are just creatures you could have as a companion, and like we added a bunch of them that seem really fun to have.
And I feel like every question she had was just helping us further develop the lore. And then it came to like creating the ciphers, like she had so many cool ideas and stuff that I didn't even thought about. She was just like, it would be cool for a player to be able to do this and that. And we were like, yes, I would want to do that. So like her input was very valuable. And I think that from the beginning, we had like a relationship with other creatives that we let them give us input and just create stuff in this world, because it's so much more fun to work with people when they have like just the space to create. So
yeah, I mean, we had a bunch of NPCs existing already, but Shauna made up a bunch of new ones because she thought maybe there's not that many NPCs that do this kind of job or whatever. So she made up a lot of them and invented new locations too. So we had to get further down into the city map, because we already had a map, but it was much further away.
It was a world map. It was not a city map.
Yeah,
it was a world thing.
We had to do a city map, and then she had all these new locations that she came up with. So we're like, well, where would that be? And we sort of placed all the new locations she made up in the map. And that's the fun thing about this world, is every time a new collaborator comes in the project, they bring something, we put it in the project, and it becomes canon from there on. I mean, the things Shauna made up, they're in the world now. They're in the map, and if you go there, it's there. It's not going to change like location. And
I remember one of the first story that Tim or Ben wrote was like, he just dropped in the world golfing, and I was just like, I don't know what that is, but we'll figure it out like after the campaign.
Oh no, I remember there was one story where he said, oh, I'm trying to haggle, I don't know, I got these shells for a Vinian drifter. And he just wrote that because it sounded cool, like a Vinian drifter. And later on, we're like, wait a minute, like what's Vinian? Does it come from vines? So like, and then we made up this new region that's called the Vinian Ridge, and there's a duck called Vines, and that's where the frogs live. And it all came from just this
one
small
sentence and then one
that said
story.
Vinian Ridge that we had somehow to loop around to make it work, because you cannot just have like drop a word that doesn't have any association with anything in the world.
Well, you know, if you guys are taking suggestions, you know, just let us know, because we can give you a ton too.
Have you guys played much of the RPG? Have you run a campaign and stuff?
No, we've started like getting interested in like the RPG and everything about at the same time as we started looking for this game. And then like the pandemic hit, and we were just like, okay, we bought like the rules set of the Cypher System, and we also bought like the Numenera 2-book Discovery
Destiny.
Discovering Destiny.
Yeah.
And we read that, and we didn't play.
Yeah.
Well, we were just two of us, so it was like, oh, that's cool. I have all that knowledge. But
now but now you guys are part of our Discord, so you can come play whenever you're ready.
That's true.
You
But
know,
it's really,
it's
really amazing.
So
watching
weird. You guys should join a random Tidal Blades game and not tell anybody.
Sunglasses and
No, it's actually not
Like on the Discord server.
How do you know? I wrote it.
Yeah. Do it on the Discord server, you know, come in with aliases. And just, you know,
That would
mess
be
with
hilarious.
Yeah.
we should do that.
If you guys stick around, the Discord, and you guys wanna fill the shoes of one of these Tidal Blades, I'm sure one of us or someone could run you guys in a Cypher System Tidal Blades game. Like, no, it would
Man,
be
that's
a
kind of
blast.
something I would like at some point. That sounds really
that sounds
fun.
really cool.
We could
Just
definitely make it
hit us
happen.
up. We'll make it happen. We'll definitely make it happen.
But yeah, we spoke a ton about all the stuff coming with Tidal Blades 2, the board game, the RPG book, the minis, all this cool stuff. Is there anything else you would like our audience to know about the Tidal Blades 2 Kickstarter that we haven't mentioned yet?
Wow. It's ending in 2 days, so it'll take too long.
But it's still, you can still purchase it afterward.
Yeah,
but yeah, like it's ending in 2 days.
I would just say, like, really do check it out, because when it's coming out next year, you might regret it when you see all the people posting on social media and be like, wow, this adventure is amazing. Because honestly, it's difficult doing this campaign because we don't want to spoil anything. So we're just showing the first 6 scenarios, and there's a lot of cool stuff we're not talking about. And so that's why all this, we post story narratives every update. And this is all just like backstory prior to the campaign, because we cannot spoil the story, but there's some really cool stuff in there that people, I think, are going to be very engaged with.
And I also think the RPG book is like magic. It's so nice. Like we've read it a couple of times already, might be 4 times, like back to back. So we're kind of getting a good sense of everything that's in there, and it's so cool. It just makes you wanna.
I mean, I like it just as a lore book. I mean, even not to play, but just like to look at the art and read about it. I think it's a great reference. But then when I look,
much cooler to create your own character.
Oh yeah, I mean when I look at the campaign, the season from Table Stories, man, they crack me up with this, like the goblin, the big glasses, and they seem to be having so much fun.
And I would say that Shauna was the perfect person from MCG, because the aesthetic of Tidal Blades is so in her wheelhouse. You know, like if you see the other products she's worked on at MCG, it's, you know, your guys were like a match made in heaven, peanut butter and chocolate. Like
that's how I felt. Yeah.
I mean,
a perfect storm.
Yeah, you're right, Ed. Because I mean, when you think about it, just think about Predation, comparing Predation to Tidal Blades. It's kind of a, you know.
Oh, we all mad here, like the stuff.
Yeah, the aesthetics,
like,
the whimsical aesthetics of the.
It's very much Tidal Blades.
So yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, I can't wait to get my hands on that book. And
we have one more question, chat. If you have a question for these wonderful Mr. Cuddington, please put it in the chat description, and we'll gladly ask them. I know there's a couple questions in chat already, but yeah, if anybody listening in chat has a question to ask either about the art, the game, or anything you want to ask them, please put it in chat now, and we'll ask them as well. Dean, you want to ask our last question?
So last question, last but not least, what can we look forward to, seeing from Druid City Games in the future? I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to highlight, that we haven't mentioned, like Al said, but, what's on the horizon, if you can tell us?
Well, outside of Tidal Blades from Druid City, I know that James is gonna publish a game called Bloodstone, which is gonna be awesome. We didn't do the art, but it's looking very pretty.
Yeah.
And
we do want to focus on Tidal Blades. I know James want to push it, and there's some cool unannounced things also coming up after the campain. But
there's not much there's not much that we can tell.
Hey, wait, we have to ask. That's,
I mean, you have a Facebook group and a website as well, right? If someone wanted to go see or possibly purchase your art, is there a place they could go?
Well, we have a Facebook and a website, which are not super updated.
The art station is more up to date.
Yeah, but purchased art directly is not something that we do right now. We have a lot of board game fans, but so far we haven't been selling prints, mostly because when we do art for a company, most likely they have like the rights to the images. But
there's we're selling an art pack in the Kickstarter, because people were constantly asking, can we buy art? So
we buy prints? We have an add-on for prints this time around.
I can't speak for board game aficionados, but RPG, we love to buy prints.
Yes, we do.
We had Bruce Bernice on from, he's done several artwork for Numenera and stuff. And I actually worked with him at Comic-Con, and he was selling a ton of prints. You know, like we worked the booth, I worked his booth for him, and he made a killing at Comic-Con selling RPG prints. So be prepared.
Yeah, and I will definitely say with your style, with the uniqueness of the characters, the universe, I feel like Prince would do well. Like it's so pleasing to the eye. Like it's just so nice. But before we dive into our questions from the audience, we only have a handful. One of our viewers here, the Wakester, just a quick comment they wanted to throw out there, and it's really nice, so I wanted to read it out loud. They said, even if I were not already a backer, this conversation would have convinced me. Your energy is fantastic. Love it. And yeah, definitely, you guys are awesome. It's been awesome hearing all the, energy coming from you guys about this project. You guys are obviously very passionate about. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for all this.
Thanks so much.
And one other comment, Al. Maps, poster size maps. We always want more
Poster
maps.
size, yeah.
That is another thing people love. But yeah, let's go into the questions. We only have 2 questions from the audience here, just about the RPG specifically, looks like. And they're both from our viewer, Adalisk. First question is there vehicle combat in the RPG, if you know? I mean, you've read the book, I'm assuming you know, but yeah, is there vehicle combat?
Yeah, there is. Shauna wrote this. I don't know if it's a system that already existed in other Cypher systems and she sort of recycled it or made up some new rules, but yeah, there's definitely vehicular combat, and it's nice because in this universe you can both be just on your single watercraft and sort of when you're in competitions you can do what we call watercraft jousting, and you can sort of like old medieval things but like on watercrafts, but you can you can sort of battle like that, but you can also just have your bigger boat and do like big boat against other big boats.
And you can like mount harpoons on your big boats with your team and just decide you go like pirate style and just go on another ship and just do everything you want.
You just made me think about this when you said vehicle combat. Are there warring species in this world? Because I haven't really.
Yeah. Well, I mean the Crocs,
the Warrior Crocs.
Yeah.
Right?
So here's the thing, like,
we didn't want to have a world that was at war constantly. So it's mostly like a peaceful world, but we have a lot of like monster coming from the depth and stuff like that. So we have also like high seas where like people don't go there that much because just waves are intense. So we have those Wardian Crocs. Do you want to?
Yeah, so there are people that live mostly in the city where things are safe and they might not all have to fight. But as soon as you go a bit further away from the city, nearer the fold, like this big, huge barrier and stuff, everything's become more dangerous and people are a lot more able to fight. There are some people that also live outside the city entirely and they're kind of outcasts and can be just like dangerous to go there. They might just attack you and try to steal your stuff. And there's also these mysterious, like, almost Viking-like Crocs that have these huge boats and that like are in the ocean, and we don't know much about them, but you probably don't want to meet them. And,
and you have that line in the book where it says like the Wardian Crocs became like a night story for kids to go to bed because they're come and get you.
Yeah, but
so,
most probably they just kill off the big monsters and keep the city safe, and you don't know it.
I love that.
Great. So our next question from the audience was, when do you expect the RPG to be available at local game stores?
I can't answer that though.
Yeah, that will be more of a James question. Like in August, the PDF should be available.
Did you read that? Yeah.
Yeah, on the page. For the printed copy of the book, I think it will be like at the same time as the game itself. So I would say June 2023, right? That's
next year. Yeah, unless it's changed and there's separate shipping. But I'm at this point, I don't think so. So
Yeah, so I would say
Take
that
this
for
with a
now.
grain of salt. Maybe read it on. Honestly, I'm not. I don't know. We've not.
I'm pretty sure about the August thing for the digital
PDF.
version.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
everybody,
as soon as you have the PDF, you can start playing on Discord.
Oh, yeah.
So that's cool.
We also have another question that just came in. They said, are they domain rules?
Domain rules. Can you elaborate?
because I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm also not quite sure myself.
I thought that was a board game related question, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought maybe that was a board game terminology that's over my head since.
Does it mean, because I don't know if it means about like owning houses and stuff like that, or just entirely different question, but I take it as if it's talking about like owning stuff, but because it's one element that I really love about the game is that Shauna made up this this whole adventure where you can
Build a community.
build your own dock and community.
Okay.
I was so thrilled when she came up with that as one of the two pre-written adventures, but you can sort of just like make up the kind of service that you're providing in community and like get NPCs on board and just sign up the paperwork, find a place, secure food, build your things, get the materials. Like it just spawns into all kinds of different directions and side quests you can do, and then have this little home base where you can feel like this is your house that you built with your gang.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
answer that
they
question.
elaborated, and yeah,
Yeah, they
domains are where you
elaborated.
can lead an army, grow a kingdom, or own
And you
land.
just
and such. So,
answered
yeah.
it. You
Perfect.
answered
I mean,
it perfectly.
You could do, yeah. If you want to raise an army and like try to take over like the Citadel and actually fight the Tidal Blades, you could do that. That sounds.
I mean, having a team
sounds
of
pretty cool.
villain and just
Yeah.
go.
Oh,
If I were to do that, I would go in Angler's Cove, and there's like this big outcast turtle that's sort of living in the fringe and
Oh,
that
no,
has
you-
access to high technology. Yeah.
You're telling all the murder hobos exactly how to take over the game.
Now,
There's somebody
one
going
last,
to the video
one-
now writing notes. Okay, I want to take over.
I got one last question for you guys, and I don't know if it's if it's there or not, because I haven't looked at all the character races and stuff. Do you guys have like a nautiloid character?
What?
Like a nautilus? A sea, a hybrid, a nautiloid or something like that?
Yeah, like the creature that creates mutation is like a nautilus, but it's not like a playable species type of thing. It's more of a creature that lives in the ocean. It has like micronic energy in it, so it makes time-related mutation, and like consuming the thing makes you basically mutate into those weird creatures.
Yeah, like the Citadel sort of harvests these creatures to create all the energy in the city. So if you need to make a quick buck, you can always like try to go hunt these shellers and bring them back and sell them. But as Lina was saying, it's kind of dangerous because they cause mutations very easily, and so you can end up with like
I think that's
a third
also
arm or
that's also like a nice GM intrusion to just be like, you've been handling a lot of shellers, so just roll for a mutation here. It's gonna be bad.
That's
All
gonna
right, so
be great.
that brings up a interesting question, I guess, before we wrap up here. Is there a section of the book that has like a mutation table based off this, or is that
oh
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
multiple
boy.
pages long, man. Yeah.
So
Oh boy.
you just made my day.
My favorite is you now have tendrils instead of eyes.
What?
Wow.
And it's just like it.
Imagine rolling that like by accident and you
Yeah, now your character has tendrils instead of eyes, and it can like see short distance because it can like touch everything, which is very funny and stupid. And it cannot see far because it's just tentacles, but you can like kind of see near because it's always just.
I don't think I want people's eye
Right up my
tentacles. Really,
wheelhouse.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
So
I mean,
you know
I
what?
was- go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm obviously I'm a backer of this project on both levels, but I was excited, but I must say now that after gotten a chance to talk, I'm really excited not only to get my hands on the board game, but to get my hands on this RPG as well. Like I'm super excited. Like I want it today. Like, can you mail it to me today? Because I'm amped up. Yeah, this sounds so awesome. I want everyone watching this and everyone please go back. Like we said, there's only 46 hours left. Time is running short. If you want all the extra stuff, like Dean said earlier, the not only the add-ons, but the exclusives that come with the board game, you can only get those exclusive scenarios while backing the Kickstarter. So please go back to Kickstarter because it's going to be well worth your wait. The stuff that they offer is phenomenal, and there's so much stuff that you could get. On the RPG side, you got a play mat, you got dice, you got XP cards that come. If you just want to get the RPG, you could do that as well. You get the PDF and the book plus XP cards for one purchase. So that's a great deal. Please go do that as well. You know, I know some of the people are either board game or RPG book. You could do either or, but I would recommend you do both. So please support them. And thank you so much. You guys have been phenomenal and great. It's been a pleasure talking to y'all.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was a great talk, and I'm with Anthony. I mean, honestly, I can be honest with you guys. I had set myself up to get the RPG book and the dice and the box of minis, but now I have to go adjust my pledge because I seriously need a board game because I want those exclusive adventures. I want those because I want to adapt those to the RPG as well. You know?
I'm sure it's going to inspire you. Like, if you want to play it as an RPG, going through the campaign is going to give you so many ideas of the kind of stuff that can happen and how the monsters interact with you. And it's so much more immersive than, I mean, it's cool reading a book, but just having both is awesome to me. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And, you know, it's going to happen. I'm literally going to, as soon as we get off, I'm going to fix that. Al, it's on you, buddy.
No, just thank you guys so much for coming on. As we all said, was excited before, super excited now. Just I literally can't wait. But yeah.
I mean, where can you guys be reached and found on the internet for our audience that wants to catch up on your work and on Tidal Blades?
I mean, right now our Facebook is probably the easiest to get in touch
for
follower stuff.
Yeah, but there's also just the website for Druid City Games. If you want to just be in touch for the Tidal Blades universe, there's going to be like all the updates for the project specifically are going to be on there.
Mm-hmm. And if you back the project, there's going to be like
constant
updates. Well, constant monthly,
like,
maybe.
Every day.
But like, if you want to see, while you're waiting, because it's going to be like a certain wait, and I'm sure everybody's anxious to get it, but at least you're going to get some little updates of what's going on. And there was a backer created map, like people on the Board Game Geek all pitched in ideas, and they made this new like 5th exclusive scenario. So we'll probably post updates of how that scenario is progressing over time. And so it's a great place to follow what's going up with Tidal Blades. Yeah.
And are you guys Mr. Cuddington on Facebook?
Yep, we are.
I have all the links in the chat here, and they will be in the YouTube description as well.
Yeah, as well.
Thanks.
And if you like us and you like what we do, please, find it in your heart to give us a follow here on Twitch, or possibly subscribe if you can, or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're trying to get 1,000 subs there, and over 4,000 members on our Discord, and we greatly appreciate if you did both. Go to Discord. We have the largest fan-run Discord for all things Monica games. We have games being run every day, and you might could start a Tidal Blade game and have Mr. Cuddington on there, the team playing and not telling you who they are, because I find that hilarious. If Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's great conversations being had there as well. You could give us a little donation on Ko-fi. Our videos and programming are always free, but it helps us out with little things like Zoom course. Or you could go to our online store and pick up some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like me and Dean got on. We'll greatly appreciate it. But last but not least, we love you guys.
And thank you guys so much again for coming on. Thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure. Definitely hit up the Kickstarter. A little less than 2 days left, so if you haven't backed it, now's the time. From us at the CU, we will see you later.
Bye, guys.